They thought mercy was weakness. They thought Alara was nothing. A small girl with dirty hands and a bleeding heart. A village healer who knew herbs and prayers, but not her place in the world. They were wrong. Alpha Asheron wasn't searching for a healer. He was hunting for a queen. He just didn't know it yet. Neither did she. The morning Alara's life changed forever began like every morning before it, with blood on her hands and hope in her heart. She knelt in the herb gardens behind her grandmother's cottage, fingers working through damp earth as the pre-dawn mist clung to her skin. The air tasted of pine and coming rain. September in the borderlands always smelled like endings. Alara pulled valerian root from the soil. The plant came free with a soft tearing sound. Dirt embedded itself under her nails. She didn't mind. Her hands were always dirty. 23 years of grinding herbs, binding wounds, delivering babies in lamplight while the village slept. 23 years of being useful but never valued. The cottage door creaked open behind her. The herbs are wrong. Alara looked up. Her grandmother stood in the doorway, backlit by the hearth fire inside. Morgana was 68 but moved like someone much older, or much younger. Some days she seemed ancient, bent under the weight of secrets. Other days, her dark eyes blazed with a fire that could have belonged to a woman of 20. Today, those eyes looked afraid. What do you mean wrong? Alara brushed dirt from her apron. Wrong season, wrong moon phase, wrong time. Morgana's voice had gone distant. You're gathering valerian for pain, yarrow for blood, comfrey for bone. Death herbs, child. Why are you gathering death herbs? Because you told me to. The words died on Alara's tongue. She looked down at the basket in her hands. Her grandmother was right. These were the herbs you used when someone was dying. Something's coming, Morgana said. Alara stood. What kind of something? The kind that makes choices necessary. Morgana hadn't looked away from the eastern tree line. The forest there was dense, dark. That was pack territory, the invisible border where human settlements gave way to shifter lands. Everyone in Millbrook Village knew that. They lived with it. A stone's throw from creatures that could kill them without effort, without consequence. You'll need the red bottle, Morgana said. Third shelf. The words hit like cold water. Alara's hands went numb. The basket slipped from her fingers. Grandmother, no, not the red bottle. Third shelf, behind the dried lavender. Alara had only seen her grandmother use the red bottle twice in 23 years. The red bottle meant someone was dying. It meant someone needed medicine that cost the healer almost as much as it cost the dying. Who? Alara's voice came out smaller than she wanted. Who needs it? Morgana finally looked at her, really looked at her, and in her grandmother's eyes, Alara saw something that made her heart stutter. Recognition. You do, child. You've always needed it. I just didn't know when you'd be ready to use it. Before Alara could ask what that meant, a sound split the morning silence. Wet thunder. Something heavy collapsing in the underbrush just beyond the tree line. Then nothing. Then a wheeze so human in its agony that Alara's hands moved before her mind could stop them. She ran. The forest behind the cottage wasn't safe after dark. Everyone in Millbrook knew that too. But dawn was different. Dawn belonged to the in-between hours. Alara crashed through the underbrush. Her skirt caught on thorns. She yanked it free without stopping. The red bottle was in her pocket. She grabbed it on pure instinct. 20 yards into the tree line, she found him. The wolf was massive. Even collapsed on his side, he was nearly as tall as her waist. His fur was black as midnight water. Beautiful. Terrible. Except where blood had matted it into rust-colored patches. So much blood, it pooled beneath him, soaked into the forest floor, turned fallen leaves into a slick burgundy carpet. He was dying. She could see it in the way his breathing had gone shallow. Irregular. His eyes, golden, too intelligent, too aware, tracked her with the resigned focus of someone watching their own ending approach. Goddess, help me. The prayer slipped out. The wolf's lips pulled back from his teeth, a warning. I know, Alara kept her voice soft. I know you could kill me, but I'm the only chance you have, so we're going to have to trust each other. She didn't wait for permission. Her hands found the worst wound, a gash across his ribs that went deep. Deeper than should have been survivable. She could see bone, could see the flutter of something that might have been lung tissue. These wounds were precise, calculated. This wasn't a fight, this was an execution. The red bottle was warm in her pocket. Alara pulled it free, uncorked it with her teeth, poured half the contents directly into the wound. The wolf's entire body went rigid, his jaw opened in a silent scream. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She held him down with her body weight. It has to burn. It has to burn to work. Alara worked fast, pressed yarrow paste into the smaller cuts, wrapped comfrey-soaked bandages around his ribs. Her hands moved in the pattern Morgana had drilled into her since childhood. Stop the blood, stabilize the bone, give the body reason to fight. The wolf watched her through it all. Those golden eyes stayed locked on her face with an intensity that felt like judgment, like he was memorizing her. You must have really angered someone, she murmured. These wounds are surgical, professional. Someone wanted you dead. His ear twitched. Well, whoever they were, they did terrible work. You're not dying tonight. I won't allow it. Time moved strangely when she worked. Minutes became hours. Hours became heartbeats. Gradually, impossibly, the bleeding stopped. The wolf's breathing deepened. His eyes, which had started to glaze with death, sharpened again. There, Alara sat back on her heels. You'll live. The wounds will scar, and you'll be sore for weeks, but you'll live. The wolf made a sound low in his chest, something that felt like gratitude and question and warning all at once. She should have left then, should have run back to the cottage. Instead, she stayed. I'll check on you at dawn, Alara said softly. She reached out to rest her hand on his head. His fur was softer than she expected, warm. Don't die between now and then. His eyes closed, just for a moment. And in that moment, Alara could have sworn she saw something shift in his face, something too human. But then his eyes opened again, and he was just a wolf. She stood, started back toward the cottage. She was 3 steps away when she heard it. A howl, then another, then 10, 20, 50. A chorus of voices rising from deep in the packlands. The sound made her bones vibrate, made something primal in her hindbrain scream danger. Alara looked back at the wolf. He was watching her again, and this time there was no mistaking what she saw in his eyes. Recognition, and something that looked terribly like regret. She ran back to the cottage, slammed the door, threw the bolt. Morgana was standing by the window, the red bottle's empty twin in her hand. She'd known. How many? Morgana's voice was quiet. I don't know. Dozens. Maybe more. Alara pressed her back against the door. They're coming, aren't they? Yes. Why, I saved him. I just saved. You saved someone important. Morgana set down the bottle, crossed to where Alara stood shaking, took her blood-stained hands in her own. Important enough that his pack will come to collect the debt, or collect you. With wolves, it's often hard to tell the difference. What do I do? Listen carefully, child. Morgana's grip tightened. When they come, and they will come, you must remember this. Mercy is not weakness, but it is always, always a chain. You bound yourself to that wolf the moment you chose to save him. And now, she trailed off, but Alara heard the unspoken end of that sentence as clearly as if her grandmother had shouted it. Now you belong to them. Market day in Millbrook Village was always the same. Chaos barely contained by tradition. Farmers hawking vegetables, fishermen selling their catch, children weaving between stalls. Alara loved market day. It was the one day each week when she wasn't just the healer's granddaughter. She was part of the crowd. Today felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her back, couldn't stop checking the forest line. The wolves hadn't come at dawn like Morgana predicted. Maybe they wouldn't come at all. Make way for the pack! The shout cut through market noise like a blade through silk. Everything stopped. Alara's stomach dropped. 6 wolves walked into the market square. Not in wolf form. They wore human shapes. Beautiful, dangerous, moving with fluid grace that marked them as other. The leader was a woman, tall, muscular, with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes. She wore leather armor that had seen real use. Scars crossed her knuckles. Kira, someone whispered. The beta female. Kira was second in command of the Silverpine pack. She came to the village once a month to collect taxes, but it was the middle of the month. Kira wasn't supposed to be here. The beta female's gaze swept across the crowd, cold, assessing, looking for something. Her eyes found Alara. Everything in Alara screamed run, but her feet had grown roots. She stood frozen as Kira crossed the square. The crowd parted like water around a stone. Kira stopped directly in front of Alara, close enough that she could smell cedar and smoke. You're the healer. Not a question, a statement. Alara's mouth had gone dry. Yes, I assist my grandmother. Assist. Kira's smile had no warmth in it. Is that what you call it? Because I heard something different. I heard you went into pack territory last night, into lands where humans are forbidden. and you touched something that didn't belong to you. The square had gone so silent Alara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel 50 pairs of eyes burning into her back. I found an injured animal, Alara said, kept her voice steady through sheer will. I'm a healer. I couldn't what? Couldn't resist interfering? Couldn't follow the most basic rule of pack law? Kira circled her. Predatory. That animal, as you call it, was under sentence of execution. Justice had been served, and you, she spat the word, you dared to undo it. I didn't know. Ignorance isn't innocence. Kira's hand shot out, grabbed Alara's wrist, yanked her forward so hard she stumbled. Her knees hit cobblestone. The beta female forced Alara's arm up, displayed it to the watching crowd like evidence at a trial. Look at her hands, Kira's voice rang across the square. Still stained with blood, still dirty with her crime. This worthless human trash dared to interfere with pack justice, dared to save a wolf sentenced to death. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, not support, not outrage on Alara's behalf, just fear. I'm sorry. The words tasted like ash. I didn't know. I'll never. Kneel properly when you apologize to your betters. The command cracked like a whip. Alara's other knee hit the ground. Now she was kneeling fully, head bowed. Shame burned through her, hot, acidic. She could feel the village watching, could feel their relief that it was her kneeling instead of them. Repeat after me, Kira said. I am worthless. Silence. Say it, or I start killing villagers until you do. I am worthless. I am trash. I am trash. I have no right to exist on Packland. The words stuck in her throat. Alara looked up, met Kira's eyes, saw no mercy there, just cold authority and the absolute certainty that she would do exactly what she threatened. I have no right to exist on Packland. Kira smiled, released Alara's wrist, let her collapse fully to the cobblestones. Good. Now you understand your place. Humans like you are why wolves should rule absolutely. You're weak, stupid, bleeding hearts with no concept of justice or consequences. She turned to address the crowd. Let this be a lesson. Pack law is absolute. Cross our borders without permission, and you answer to us. She didn't finish, didn't need to. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Kira and her warriors left as suddenly as they'd come. The market slowly came back to life. Within minutes, it was like nothing had happened, except no one looked at Alara. She pushed herself up on shaking legs. Her knees throbbed. The cobblestones had split the skin. Blood seeped through her skirt. Are you all right, dear? Old Mrs. Chen, the baker's wife. I'm fine. Alara managed something that might have been a smile. Just a misunderstanding. You should go home. Rest. Let your grandmother. I said I'm fine. The words came out harsher than intended. Mrs. Chen stepped back. Her kindness shuddered behind the same fear everyone else wore. Alara limped out of the market. The crowd parted. Let her pass. No one spoke to her. No one met her eyes. By the time she reached the cottage, tears were streaming down her face. Not from pain, from the humiliation of it. The public shame. The knowledge that she'd knelt in front of 50 people and declared herself worthless because a wolf told her to. Morgana was waiting at the door. She didn't ask what happened. Didn't need to. She just pulled Alara inside, sat her down, cleaned the blood from her knees with gentle hands and warm water. They'll come tonight, Morgana said finally. The real pack, not just the beta, the alpha himself, maybe more. How do you know? Because you didn't just save any wolf, child. You saved the heir, the alpha's son, and when you touched him, when you used the red bottle, you created a bond that can't be broken. Morgana pressed a small vial into Alara's hands, clear liquid that caught the light like captured moonlight. When they come, don't run, don't fight, and no matter what they offer, no matter what they threaten, remember this. Remember what? You're stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and if they hurt you, if they betray you, Morgana's smile was sharp as broken glass. I'll come for you with worse than knives. They came at dawn. Alara hadn't slept. She'd spent the night listening to the forest, waiting. The first howl came as the sun broke the horizon, singular, commanding, a sound that vibrated in her chest and made every instinct scream submit. Then came the others, one by one at first. Then in a rush, 100 voices rising to meet the dawn, surrounding the cottage in a circle of sound that felt like a noose tightening. Morgana stood by the door, her face calm, resolved. She smoothed her skirts and walked outside. Alara followed. They filled the clearing, wolves in their true forms, massive, beautiful, terrifying. They ranged from gray to brown to black, from the size of large dogs to creatures that could look horses in the eye. They sat in perfect silence, arranged in concentric circles around the cottage, and every single one of them was staring at her. At the center sat a wolf that made her saved stranger look small. He was pure white, his fur so bright in the dawn light it almost hurt to look at. Scars crisscrossed his muzzle, his shoulders. His eyes were blue as winter ice, and they held an intelligence so sharp it felt like being dissected. This was an alpha. Everything about him radiated authority. The white wolf looked at Alara for a long moment, then he looked at Morgana, dipped his head slightly, a gesture of respect. Morgana returned it. Alpha Theron, you honor us with your presence. The white wolf's form began to shimmer. Alara had heard about the change, the shift from wolf to human, but she'd never seen it. Stories didn't do it justice. It wasn't a transformation so much as a revelation. Like reality was peeling away to show what had been underneath all along. Where the white wolf had sat, a man now stood. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair that caught the dawn light the same way his fur had. His face was hard, carved from stone and old wars. The scars translated to his human body. Thin white lines across his chest, his arms, a particularly vicious one that ran from temple to jaw. He wore simple clothes, dark trousers, a loose shirt, but he carried himself like a king in coronation robes. Morgana, his voice was gravel and smoke. It's been many years. Not long enough. If you're here with 100 wolves to intimidate an old woman and her granddaughter. Theron's mouth twitched, almost a smile. You haven't changed. Neither have you, still bringing an army when a conversation would suffice. The conversation requires an army. His eyes shifted to Alara. Your granddaughter saved someone last night. Someone who should have died. Alara's throat went dry. She forced herself to speak. I saved a wounded wolf. I didn't know. You saved my son. The words fell like stones into still water. His son, the dying wolf, had been the Alpha's son, the heir. Then you should be thanking her. Morgana's voice was sharp, not surrounding her home like she committed a crime. The thanks are why we're here. Theron took a step forward. My son was being punished. He challenged another Alpha's heir, broke treaty law. The wounds he received were meant to be fatal. That was the judgment. Alara's stomach dropped. I interfered with an execution. You saved his life. The Alpha's voice was neutral, which presents us with a problem. The debt he owes you is immeasurable. A life debt, we call it. And life debts must be paid. I don't want payment. I just wanted to help. That's not how it works. Two wolves from the circle stood, began walking toward her. They shifted as they moved. Woman and man, both lean and dangerous, both with the same golden eyes she'd seen last night. You tied yourself to him, the woman said. Her voice was rough. To us, whether you intended to or not. The male spoke next, colder. By pack law, you saved the heir's life. He now owes you everything. His service, his protection, his loyalty, until the debt is repaid. Alara tried to process this. So he'll, what, work for me? The woman made a sound that might have been a laugh. It's not servitude, girl, it's bonding. He's tied to you now. Where you go, he goes. Your enemies become his. Your battles become his. Your life becomes his priority above even his own pack. That's insane. It doesn't matter what you want. Theron's voice cut through hers like a blade. You made a choice last night. Choices have weight. This is the weight of yours. There's another option, Morgana said quietly. Everyone looked at her. The pack could absorb the debt, she continued. Take the girl as one of your own. Release the son from individual bonding by binding her to the whole. No, the word burst from Alara. Grandmother, no. It would mean leaving your home. Theron studied her carefully, coming to live in packlands, learning our ways, submitting to our laws. She's human, the male protested. She can't shift. She'd be useless. She's a healer, Morgana countered. A good one. Better than good. She has the gift. Whether you can sense it or not, your people could use someone with her skills. We have healers. None like her. Morgana's voice was hard, proud. She brought someone back from death's door using herbs and will. How many of your healers can say that? Theron studied Alara like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Can you do it again? The healing? Yes, if I have the right supplies. He moved so fast she didn't have time to scream. One moment he was standing 10 feet away. The next his hand was at his belt, drawing a knife. The blade flashed in the morning light as he dragged it across his palm, deep enough that blood welled immediately, dripped onto the ground between them. "Heal it, he said, extended his bleeding hand toward her. "Now." Alara's healer instinct overrode her fear. She grabbed his wrist, pulled his hand closer to examine the wound. It was deep, clean. "I need my supplies." "You have 30 seconds. She ran inside, grabbed her herb basket with shaking hands. Morgana had already prepared fresh yarrow paste. Back outside, worked fast, cleaned the wound with water from the pump, packed it with the yarrow paste, added honey, wrapped it tightly. The whole thing took maybe 2 minutes. Theron flexed his hand, testing. Then he unwrapped the bandage. The wound was already closing. Not healed completely, but closing faster than it should have been. The bleeding had stopped entirely. "Impossible." The woman breathed. "We heal fast, but not that fast. And she's human. She shouldn't be able to." "She has the gift." Theron's voice was quiet, certain. He looked at Alara with new eyes, not threatening now, but calculating. "Old magic, the kind that runs in certain bloodlines." Morgana said nothing, but Alara felt her stiffen. "Here's my offer," Theron said. "Come with us. Live in pack lands. Learn our ways. Use your healing to serve the pack. In exchange, my son's debt becomes the pack's burden. He's free. You're protected. And you'll have resources beyond anything you'd find in this cottage. And if I refuse, then my son remains bound to you. Wherever you go, he follows. Whatever danger you face, he faces. You'll have a shifter shadow for the rest of your life. And every enemy he's made, and he's made many, will become your enemy too." It wasn't really a choice. It was a trap dressed as options. Alara looked at Morgana. Her grandmother nodded once. "How long?" Alara asked. "If I come with you, how long do I have to stay?" "Until the debt is satisfied. Could be months. Could be years." Theron's expression softened slightly. "We're not monsters, girl. You'll be treated fairly. Fed, housed, protected. You'll have freedom within Packlands, but you'll be ours. You'll be ours." Alara thought about the dying wolf in the forest, about those golden eyes watching her work. "I'll come," she heard herself say. "But I want to see him first, your son. I want to make sure he's recovering properly." Theron's eyebrows rose. "You're negotiating." "I'm being a healer. If I'm coming to serve your pack, I'm going to do it properly. That means checking on my patient." For a long moment, Theron just stared at her. Then he did something she didn't expect. He laughed. It was a rough sound, like he didn't use it often, but it was genuine. "You have courage, I'll give you that. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless." He turned to the woman. "Bring Asheron forward." The circle of wolves parted. Through the gap came the black wolf she'd saved. He looked better. So much better. The wounds she'd packed and bandaged were already healing. The worst of them closed to angry red lines. He was standing, walking. He'd survived the night. Survived because of her. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, gratitude. And underneath it all, something else she couldn't name. "He's healing well," Alara said. "Professional, detached. The wounds will need to be cleaned and redressed daily for the next week. No running, no fighting, no shifting if he can help it. The internal damage was severe." "You hear that, Asheron?" Theron's voice held dark amusement. "Your healer gives orders." The black wolf dipped his head to her, a gesture of acknowledgement that made several other wolves shift uncomfortably. "1 hour," Theron said. "Gather what you need, say your goodbyes, then we leave." He shifted back to wolf form. One by one, the 100 wolves who'd come at dawn began to melt back into the forest, waiting. Morgana took Alara's hand. "Come inside, child. We need to talk." But as Alara followed her grandmother back into the cottage, her home, the only place she'd ever known, she couldn't help but look back. The black wolf sat at the edge of the clearing, still watching her. And somehow she knew he wouldn't stop. Not now, not ever. Inside, Morgana packed quickly, efficiently. "The blue vial," she said, tucking it carefully between Alara's clothes. 3 drops in water brings down any fever. 4 drops stops a heart. Grandmother. "The silver tin, moon petal salve for wounds that won't close naturally. Please. And this." Morgana pressed a small leather pouch into her hands. "Rowthorn. When someone is beyond saving but suffering, it gives peace." Alara stared at the pouch. She'd never been allowed to touch Rowthorn before. The fact that Morgana was giving it to her now meant she didn't expect her to come back. I will return, Alara said, voice cracking. This is just temporary. Morgana cupped her face in weathered hands. Alara, listen to me. You are walking into a world that doesn't follow human rules. You'll see things that don't make sense. You'll be asked to do things that conflict with everything I taught you. But you remember this. Healing is healing, no matter who needs it. Human, shifter, enemy, friend. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. You treat it all the same. Even if they're cruel, especially then. Cruelty comes from pain most of the time. You heal the body, sometimes you heal the thing that made them cruel in the first place. A knock at the door. Time was up. Morgana pulled her into a hug that smelled like herbs and wood smoke and home. You're stronger than you know. Braver than you believe. And if they hurt you, if they betray you, she pulled back, smile sharp. I'll come for you with worse than wolves can imagine. The beta female was waiting outside. Kira, the same woman who'd humiliated her in the market, but something had shifted in Kira's demeanor. She still looked intimidating, but the cruel edge had softened. Alpha's orders, she said simply. You're under his protection now. What happened in the market? That was before we understood who you were, what you did. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. I'm Kira, she continued, beta female. Apparently I'm responsible for keeping you alive. I didn't ask for a bodyguard. No, which makes this whole situation more irritating. She grabbed Alara's bag. Let's go. The pack doesn't wait. Alara looked back at the cottage one more time. Morgana stood in the doorway, looking small and old and indestructible all at once. She raised one hand, not a wave, a benediction. Then Kira was pulling her forward and her home was disappearing behind the trees. The pack had reformed in the forest, still in wolf form, still numbering close to 100. They parted as Alara approached, creating a corridor that led deeper into the woods. Alphatheron stood at the head of the procession, white fur gleaming. Beside him was Acheron, the black wolf she'd saved. She comes willingly, Kira announced, loud enough for the entire pack to hear, bound by debt and oath, under Alpha's protection. A ripple went through the assembled wolves. Acheron approached, his movements still careful. He stopped directly in front of her, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Then he did something that made every wolf in the clearing go utterly still. He bowed his head, pressed his muzzle against her palm. What is he doing? Alara whispered to Kira. Her expression was unreadable. Acknowledging the debt publicly. That's not standard. This is a subordinate gesture. He's the Alpha's heir. He shouldn't be showing submission to a human. But Acheron didn't seem to care about protocol. His golden eyes met hers, and she saw something in them that made her breath catch. Not gratitude, not submission, possession. We move, Theron's voice cut through the moment. Alara walks with Acheron and Kira. Everyone else, standard formation. Someone shift and give the girl a cloak. A younger wolf shifted into a lanky teenage boy, wordlessly handed her a fur-lined cloak. Alara wrapped it around herself gratefully. The morning air was cold. Then they were moving. The pack flowed through the forest like water. Utterly silent, despite their numbers. Acheron stayed close to her left, Kira on her right. This was Alara's life now, walking between predators, protected by the very creatures she'd been taught to fear. And somewhere ahead, in territory she'd never seen, waited a future she couldn't begin to imagine. The only thing she knew for certain was that she'd made a choice last night in the forest, when she'd knelt in blood-soaked leaves and refused to let death win. That choice had changed everything. And there was no going back. The forest changed as they walked deeper into pack territory. The trees grew larger, older, their branches interweaving overhead until only fragments of sky remained visible. Light filtered through in golden columns that turned the air itself into something sacred. Alara's feet ached. They'd been walking for over an hour. The cloak kept her warm, but her shoes weren't made for endless miles of rough earth. She stumbled, caught herself, kept moving because stopping would mean admitting weakness. Acheron moved closer, not touching, just present, a black shadow at her left shoulder. We're entering packlands, Kira said quietly. From here on, you're under absolute protection. Anyone who harms you answers to the Alpha, but that also means you're under absolute law. Our law. What are the rules? Don't challenge anyone's dominance unless you're prepared to fight. Don't enter the Alpha's residence without invitation. Don't refuse a direct order from anyone ranked higher than you, which is basically everyone. Kira paused. And most important, don't lie. We can smell it. Lies are worse than crimes here. You can kill someone in a fair fight and be forgiven. Lie about your intentions and you'll be exiled or executed. That seems harsh. That's pack law. The forest opened into a clearing and Alara's breath stopped. She'd expected rough cabins, something primitive. What she saw instead looked like it had been carved from the forest itself, structures that grew as much as they were built. Wood and stone blended seamlessly. The central building was massive, 3 stories tall with windows that caught the late morning sun and threw it back in amber fragments. Around it, smaller dwellings clustered like children gathering around a parent. And everywhere, there were shifters, some in wolf form, some human, some caught between. "Welcome to Silverpine," Kira said. They walked through the settlement. Eyes followed them, dozens of pairs, curious, hostile, confused. Some of the children pointed and whispered. An older woman spat on the ground as they passed. "Ignore them," Kira said. "They'll test you." The central building loomed ahead. Kira led her inside. The interior made her dizzy. High ceilings, stone floors, sunlight filtered through windows in patterns that looked almost intentional. "Wait here," Kira gestured to a bench. "I need to inform the Alpha you've arrived." Then she was gone, and Alara was alone. Not quite alone. She could feel them, pack members passing by, pausing to look at her, testing, judging. One young man approached. "You smell like him," he said. "Like Asheron, like claimed property." "I'm not property. You're something." He circled her. "What use is a human?" "Apparently enough use that your Alpha brought me here." His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist. "Remove your hand." The voice came from behind her, cold, authoritative. "Now!" The young man dropped her wrist like it had burned him. His face went pale. A woman stepped into view. She was older, maybe in her 50s, with silver threading through her dark hair and scars that told stories of survival. But it was her eyes, ice blue, the same shade as Alpha Theron's, that marked her as dangerous. "Go find something productive to do," she said to the young man, "before I find something for you." He fled. The woman turned to Alara. "I apologize for Garrett. He's young and stupid." She extended a hand. "I'm Cassiel, Alpha's sister, second in command, and apparently your new advocate." Alara took her hand carefully. "Advocate? Someone needs to teach you how to survive here. Come, we have much to discuss before you meet the healers." The healing quarters occupied the entire eastern wing. The smell hit before Alara even entered. Herbs and antiseptic, blood and sweat. "This is the heart of pack survival," Cassiel said. "We're warriors. We fight, we defend, which means we bleed a lot." Inside was organized chaos. A large room filled with beds. Several were occupied. "Senna," Cassiel called out, "come meet our new auxiliary healer." A woman emerged from a back room. She was perhaps 40, with auburn hair pulled back in a severe bun and sharp green eyes. She was human. Alara could tell by the lack of that predatory grace all shifters carried. "This is the girl who saved Asheron," Cassiel said, "the one who used Morgana's red bottle." Senna circled her slowly. "You're young. Too young to have the kind of skill that work required." "Who trained you?" "My grandmother, Morgana of Millbrook." "I know who Morgana is." Senna stopped in front of her, arms crossed. "That's a good lineage." She gestured to the occupied beds. "What do you see?" Another test. Alara moved to the nearest bed. A young woman with torso bandages, broken ribs. "May I?" The woman glanced at Senna, who nodded. Alara examined the bandaging. "Crushed ribs, at least 3. The bandaging is good, but the poultice is wrong. You've used comfrey with calendula. For internal bone work, you want comfrey with horsetail and nettle. They help calcium absorption." Senna's expression didn't change. "Continue." Alara moved to an older man with a splinted leg. When she got close enough, she smelled something wrong. Sweet and rotten. "Infection. Early stage. You'll need to reopen the wound, clean it with honey. Real honey, not processed. It's naturally antibacterial. Pack the wound after cleaning. Change the dressing twice daily. He'll need fever management too." "And the child?" A small bed, a child no more than 6, trembling, breathing labored. "Chest infection, possibly pneumonia." She leaned closer. Faint marks around their throat. They choked or were strangled. "Training accident," Senna said tightly. "First shift. Adult grabbed them too roughly. Their airway is inflamed. They need eucalyptus steam, honey and lemon for the throat. Constant monitoring. Senna studied her for a long moment, then turned to Cassiel. She knows herbs, reads wounds correctly, better trained than half our healers. Don't let it inflate her ego. Senna turned back to Alara. You'll work under my supervision. I'm head healer. What I say goes. You question me, do it privately. You try to undermine me, and I'll make sure you're scrubbing bedpans until your hands bleed. Understand? Understood. Good. She pulled off her bloody apron, handed it to Alara. Put this on. We have work to do. Cassiel touched Alara's shoulder. You're in capable hands. Senna is harsh, but she's the best healer in 3 territories. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of work, changing poultices, cleaning wounds, monitoring the child's breathing. Senna watched everything, corrected her mistakes without cruelty. It was exhausting, challenging, and the first time since arriving that Alara felt useful. She was checking the child's temperature when the doors burst open. Kira rushed in. Senna, training accident, multiple casualties. Senna's demeanor changed instantly. How many? 4 injured, 2 critical. Kira's eyes flicked to Alara. Acheron's one of them. Alara's heart stopped. What happened? Supervising sparring. Young male lost control. Acheron intervened. His wounds reopened. I told him not to shift. You don't give orders to the Alpha's heir, Senna snapped. But she was moving, grabbing supplies. Have them brought here, Alara. Get surgical instruments ready. 4 wolves carried in on stretchers. And Acheron, unconscious, shirt soaked with blood, breathing shallow and rattling. We operate now or he dies, Senna said. Alara, with me. They moved him to the surgical table. Senna cut away his shirt. The wound across his ribs had torn open completely. We need wolf's bane powder mixed with silver dust, Senna said. It burns, but it seals shifter wounds. That's poisonous. In small amounts applied topically, it cauterizes. Now move. Alara mixed the paste with shaking hands. Apply it directly. Pack it in. Don't be gentle. Acheron's body convulsed. The paste burned on contact. Smoke rising from his exposed flesh. Now we sew. I'll do internal. You handle external. Match my rhythm. They worked in tandem, needles moving in synchronization. Time became meaningless. There was only the wound, the thread, the desperate need to hold together something that wanted to fall apart. Done, he'll live. Alara stepped back, hands covered in blood, body shaking with exhaustion. You should rest, Senna said. You've been standing for 6 hours straight. I'll stay with him. Alara, he's my patient, my responsibility. Senna sighed. Fine, but if he wakes and tries to shift, call me immediately. Hours passed. Alara stayed, monitoring his breathing, willing him to survive. He woke as shadows lengthened. You stayed, he said, voice rough. You reopened your wounds. Senna and I operated for over an hour. She pulled her hand away from his. How do you feel? Like I was gutted and put back together with fire. Bad enough that you'll be confined to bed rest for at least a week. Bad enough that if you shift again before you're fully healed, the damage might be permanent. I am weak. His voice was flat. I lost to Riven badly enough that I should have died. You're not weak. You're recovering. There's a difference. Silence, then. You're angry with me. I'm furious with you. She turned away. You came to warn me about dangers, made me promise to be careful. Then you did the exact opposite. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology. I want your cooperation. He struggled to sit up. She moved to help him. Then I'll make you a promise, he said. I'll cooperate. I'll follow your medical advice. I'll rest. I'll heal. But only if you promise me something. What? When the council asks about my recovery, and they will, tell them the truth. Don't protect me. I won't have my position handed to me because people are afraid to tell my father I'm not fit to lead. That's integrity. He caught her wrist. Promise me, Alara. Truth for truth. She'd been raised to value truth above comfort. I promise, but you have to actually give me a chance to report improvement, which means you have to heal properly. Deal. He pulled her closer until she was standing beside the table. Thank you, he said softly, for saving me, again, and for being angry with me. Most people are too afraid, Sina. I'm not most people. No. His thumb brushed across her wrist. You're not. The moment stretched, taut, filled with something humming between them like electricity. Then footsteps. Senna returning. The moment shattered. I need to move you to a recovery room, Alara said. What if I want you watching me every second? Heat flooded her cheeks. That's not appropriate. Probably not, he smiled, but I'm going to ask anyway. There's a recovery cabin on the edge of pack territory for isolating injured pack members. I want you to take me there. Monitor my recovery personally, just the two of us. 2 weeks. That will cause talk. Let it. She should say no, should maintain boundaries. But she looked at him, this powerful man begging for peace, and couldn't refuse. 2 weeks, she said. But we do this my way. Strict medical protocols, rest, healing exercise, and absolutely no shifting. Yes, healer. The recovery cabin was small, one room, one bed, a small cot in the corner, a fireplace, shelves with basic supplies. It was isolated, private. Alora didn't care. She got Acheron settled, changed his bandages, prepared herbal tea, fell into the familiar rhythm of healing work. The first 3 days were exactly what she'd promised, strictly medical. She monitored his wounds, guided him through gentle stretching exercises. They didn't talk much, just necessary exchanges between healer and patient. But on the fourth night, something changed. Acheron couldn't sleep. Tell me about your grandmother, he said, finally. About Morgana. They talked for hours that night, trading stories, sharing histories, learning each other. And with every conversation, every shared silence, every moment of unexpected laughter, Alara felt the professional boundaries she'd insisted on eroding like sand beneath waves. By the end of the first week, Acheron could stand without assistance, could walk the perimeter without tearing stitches. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was progress. The autumn gathering starts in 2 weeks, he said on the 8th morning. Riven will challenge me on the first day. But whatever happens, I need you to. But whatever happens, I need you to know you've already done more than anyone should have asked. If I fall, it's not your failure. Don't, she pulled her hand free. Don't start preparing me for your death. We still have 14 days. That's enough time. Today we add combat movements. Slow, controlled, but actual fighting technique. For the next 13 days, they trained, carefully, methodically, building back strength. And in the evenings, they talked about everything, about the impossible situation they'd found themselves in and the dangerous thing growing between them. On the 14th night, the night before the gathering, Ilara woke to find Acheron standing at the window. Can't sleep, she asked. Too much on my mind. In one day, I either prove myself or die trying. And the only thing I can think about is how much I'll regret not doing this. Not doing what? He crossed the room, stopped in front of her cot. This. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was fierce and claiming, and tasted like the fear of dying before he could do this. Alara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulled him closer even as her mind screamed that this was wrong, dangerous. But her heart didn't care. When they broke apart, Acheron rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said, raw. I don't care if it's too soon. I don't care if it's inappropriate. I love you, and I think I've loved you since you asked me riddles in that forest. She should lie, should protect them both. But truth was what she knew. I love you too, she whispered. And I have no idea if it's because we went through trauma together or because you're genuinely everything I never knew I wanted. But it's real. Whatever we have, it's real. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. Tomorrow the autumn gathering would begin. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight they were just two people who'd found something worth fighting for. And for now, that was enough. The autumn gathering grounds were ancient, a natural amphitheater carved into the hillside. Towering pines surrounded it. By the time Alara and Acheron arrived, 3 packs had already assembled: silver pine, ironwood, and 2 others. Hundreds of shifters filled the space. The air was thick with tension. Everyone knew what was coming. Alara walked beside Acheron. She monitored every step, every breath. He moved well, not perfect, but functional, combat ready, if barely. Stay close to Cassiel, he said quietly. Once the challenge starts, things can get chaotic. I need to know you're protected. I need to be close enough. Alara, please. I can't fight him if I'm worried about you. She saw the fear in his eyes. Not for himself, for her. I'll stay with Cassiel, but if you go down, I'm coming into that circle whether it's allowed or not. His mouth quirked. Wouldn't expect anything less. Cassiel found them. She looked battle-ready. Leather armor, silver hair braided back. The challenge will be called within the hour. Riven's already posturing. Let him posture. How are the wounds holding? Healed enough. He met her gaze. I can do this. Cassiel looked at Alara. Healer's assessment. Elara chose her words carefully. He's recovered significantly. The wounds are stable. He's not at full strength, probably 85% capacity, but he's functional. His technique is sound. 85% against an opponent at full strength, against an opponent who's overconfident. Riven thinks he's already won. That's an advantage. Cassiel nodded. It'll have to be enough. Alpha Theron stood at the center, his white hair gleaming. We gather under the old laws. Theron's voice carried across the amphitheater. 4 packs, one purpose. To maintain peace. To settle disputes before they become wars. He paused. But peace requires justice. And justice demands that challenges be answered. Riven of Ironwood, you have the floor. Riven stepped forward, and Alara's breath caught. He was beautiful. Possibly the most beautiful person she'd ever seen. Golden hair like captured sunlight. Features so perfect they seemed carved by an artist. A smile that would have been charming if not for the cruelty in his ice blue eyes. Alpha Theron, honored council, assembled packs. Riven's voice was smooth. 6 weeks ago, Acheron Grayson challenged me over a matter of honor. We fought. He lost. Under treaty law, his wounds were meant to be fatal. Murmurs of agreement from Ironwood pack members. But he survived, through external interference. His eyes found Elara. He was healed, saved, given a second chance he didn't earn. The healer acted according to her nature, Cassiel called out. No, but she violated the spirit of our justice. Riven turned to face Acheron. I invoke the right of renewal. The challenge stands. And this time there will be no interference. The crowd erupted. Theron raised his hand for silence. Acheron Grayson, do you accept the renewed challenge? This was the moment. Acheron could refuse, could admit weakness, but Elara knew he wouldn't. I accept, Acheron said clearly. Here and now. The crowd roared approval. Then let the circle be formed, Theron said. Traditional rules, shifted combat, no interference. Fight ends at submission or death. The crowd parted, creating a large circular space. Acheron began removing his shirt, revealing the still healing wounds. Several pack members exchanged glances. They could see the damage. Riven stripped as well. His body was unmarked. Perfect. Then both males shifted. Acheron's black wolf emerged, smaller than Elara remembered. The injuries had cost him mass, but he moved with fluid grace. Riven's wolf was massive, golden brown fur, scarred muzzle, muscles that rippled with coiled power. They circled each other. The crowd fell silent. Then Riven lunged. He was fast. His jaws snapped shut inches from Acheron's throat as Acheron twisted away. Riven's momentum carried him past. Acheron darted in, teeth finding purchase on Riven's shoulder. First blood. A cheer went up from Silverpine. But Riven barely flinched. He turned into the bite, using his weight to slam Acheron into the ground. The impact was brutal. Get up. Please get up. Acheron rolled, avoiding Riven's follow-up. But he was favoring his right side. Riven saw the weakness and pressed his advantage. The fight became vicious. Riven was relentless, attacking the injured side again and again. Blood began to flow. Both were wounded, but Acheron was bleeding more. He's going to lose, someone said. Elara wanted to scream at them, but she bit her tongue, stayed silent. Riven had Acheron pinned now, his jaws closing around Acheron's throat. Submit or die. The crowd began to chant. Submit, submit, submit. Acheron's golden eyes found Elara across the circle, and in them she saw resignation. He was going to submit. Then something changed in his expression, a flash of determination. Instead of submitting, Acheron went limp. Riven's surprise loosened his grip fractionally, and in that half-second, Acheron twisted, used his smaller size to slip free, went for Riven's legs. It was a technique from human wrestling, not wolf combat, unconventional, unexpected, and it worked. Riven went down hard. Before he could recover, Acheron was on his back, teeth at the base of his skull. The kill spot. The crowd went silent. Yield, Acheron's voice. He'd partially shifted to speak. Yield or I end this. For a long moment, nothing. I yield, Riven finally said. Acheron released him, stepped back, shifted to human form. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, swaying on his feet, barely conscious. But he was standing. He'd won. The Silverpine pack erupted in celebration. Elara was moving before she consciously decided to, pushing through the crowd. Acheron was collapsing. She needed to reach him. She caught him just in time. I won, he said, voice slurred. Elara, I won. You're an idiot. but her voice was thick with relief. You're bleeding everywhere. Senna appeared with a stretcher. Get him to the healing tent. They moved Asheron carefully. The crowd parted. The healing tent was organized chaos. They set Asheron on a surgical table. Senna began assessment. Wounds reopened, new trauma, possible internal bleeding. They worked quickly this time, Senna's hands steady, Alara assisting. Within an hour, Asheron was stable. He'll live. But he needs complete rest. Alara stayed with him. Monitoring, counting heartbeats. Hours passed. Celebration continued outside. She was checking his pulse when a commotion erupted. Kira rushed in. You need to come with me, now. There's been an accusation. Against you. Alara's blood ran cold. What kind? Riven claims you manipulated the challenge, used forbidden magic to weaken him. The council chamber was filled, 7 chairs occupied, Theron at the center, and Riven standing before them looking smug. Ah, the accused arrives, Riven said. What is this about? Alara kept her voice steady. You arrived 6 weeks ago, a human with unusual healing abilities. Spent weeks alone with Asheron. And then, conveniently, he wins a challenge he had no business winning. He won through skill. He won through unnatural assistance. Riven pulled out a small vial, dark liquid. This is bloodroot extract, creates artificial weakness in shifters. She had means, motive, and opportunity. Murmurs rippled through the council. You're suggesting the girl poisoned you? Theron's voice was dangerous. I felt unnaturally slow during the fight. Weaker than I should have been. Or maybe you were overconfident, Alara said. Maybe you underestimated your opponent. Can you prove you didn't use bloodroot? She couldn't. How do you prove a negative? This is absurd, Cassiel said. Riven, you lost fairly. I would, if I believed the loss was fair. Theron looked at Alara. Do you have anything to say in your defense? I never used bloodroot. I healed Asheron using legitimate techniques. Nothing more. She met his eyes. And if Riven felt weak during the fight, perhaps he should consider whether his own guilt slowed him down. Guilt? Riven laughed. For what? For murder. The word dropped like a stone into still water. Everything went silent. 3 years ago, Alara said clearly, Cassiel's daughter died. Officially a hunting accident, but the wounds didn't match. I've seen them in the healing records. They match your fighting style, Riven. Not an accident, murder. The chamber erupted. Cassiel stood, her face pale. What are you saying? I'm saying Senna documented injuries that couldn't have come from a hunting accident. Alara pulled papers from her pocket. Evidence. The wounds were inflicted by a shifter in partial form. Controlled strikes. Deliberate. Now this is desperate deflection, Riven said, but his smile had faltered. I loved her. Cassiel's voice cut through the cage, raw, broken. My daughter, she told me 2 weeks before she died that you'd proposed a mating bond, that she'd refused because she loved someone else, and 2 weeks later, she was dead. Tears streamed down her face. I've suspected for 3 years, but I had no proof, and now someone else saw what I saw. Did you kill my daughter? Riven's mask slipped. She was supposed to be mine, he said, furious. I offered her everything, and she chose him. He pointed toward the healing tent. She chose Asheron for his compassion, his ideals, his weakness. So you killed her, Cassiel said. I killed her because she betrayed me, because she was supposed to understand that strength matters, that power matters, that love is nothing compared to position. Riven's control shattered. And then Asheron lived anyway, survived everything, took everything from me and kept living while she stayed dead. The chamber went absolutely silent. He just confessed to murder. Riven of Ironwood, Theron's voice was ice. You stand accused of murder. How do you plead? Riven laughed, wild. Guilty. I'm guilty of killing someone who didn't understand the world we live in, who thought love conquered all. Cassiel moved so fast Alara barely saw it, shifting mid-stride, her wolf form massive, silver gray. Scarred from decades of battles, she slammed into Riven, drove him to the ground, her jaws closed around his throat. Cassiel, Theron started. I claim the right of blood justice, Cassiel snarled. He killed my daughter. Pack law gives me the right. Theron looked at the other council members. One by one they nodded. So witnessed, let justice be served. The fight was brutal, vicious. Riven shifted, fought back with everything he had. He was larger, stronger, younger. But Cassiel fought with a mother's fury, with 3 years of suppressed grief turned into weapon. It lasted less than 5 minutes. Cassiel had Riven pinned, her jaws around his throat. One bite would end it. The chamber held its breath. Then Cassiel released him, stepped back, shifted to human. "Death is too easy," she said, voice ragged. "You'll live. You'll live with the shame of what you did, with everyone knowing you're a murderer." She turned to Theron. "I want him exiled, cast out from every pack territory. Let him live as a rogue, alone, unwanted." "So witnessed," Theron said. "Riven of Ironwood, you are hereby exiled from all packlands, stripped of rank and protection. You have until dawn to leave. If you're found here after sunrise, the sentence becomes death." Riven's warriors dragged him from the chamber, broken, bleeding. Cassiel crossed to Alara, pulled her into an embrace. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me justice." When the council chamber emptied, Theron called Alara to stay. "That was brave," he said, "or foolish. I couldn't let him accuse me while he walked free for murder." "No, you couldn't." Theron studied her. "Which brings me to something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you when you first arrived." He gestured for her to sit. "Your grandmother, Morgana. Do you know her real name?" "It's always been Morgana. Before she came to Millbrook. Before she became a village healer. Her name was Leora." The world tilted. "Leora was my mate," Theron continued, voice distant. 26 years ago, she came to our territory, a human healer with gifts beyond anything I'd seen. She was beautiful, brilliant, fearless, and I loved her with everything I was." He paused. "We made it in secret. She became pregnant, but the council found out. They demanded I choose my pack or my human mate. They said a human Luna would weaken our bloodline, undermine my authority. What did you choose?" "I chose the pack. I chose duty over love. And Leora fled. I thought she'd died, thought I'd lost both her and the child. But she survived. She survived, went back to the human world, changed her name, raised our son in secret." He looked at Alara. "Acheron is my son with Leora. Your grandmother is his mother, which makes you his aunt." The realization crashed over her. "I'm his aunt by blood." "Yes, and the bond you feel. The pull between you. It's not romantic. It's not accidental. It's family recognizing family. Ancient bloodline calling to itself." Alara's mind raced. The red bottle, Morgana's strange assistance, the way the medicine had worked so perfectly. "She knew," Alara said. "Morgana knew he was her son. That's why she gave me the red bottle." "Yes, you carry the same healer blood, the same ancient magic. It's not romantic love you feel. It's something deeper. Family. Legacy." The tent flap opened. Acheron stood there, pale, shaking, leaning on Senna. "I heard," he said. "Is it true? Is Morgana my mother?" Theron stood, crossed to his son. "Yes, and I'm sorry. Sorry I hid it. Sorry I let fear keep me from acknowledging her." Acheron looked at Alara. "You're my aunt." "Apparently. So what I feel for you, what we thought is family," Alara finished. "Not romance." The relief on his face was visible, and beneath it, disappointment. "But," Theron said carefully, "that doesn't mean you can't choose each other anyway." Both looked at him. "The bond started as family recognition," Theron continued. "But what you built on top of that, the trust, the care, the partnership, that's real, that's choice. You can walk away if you want, or you can choose to make it something more." He smiled, sad. "I chose duty over love once. I won't force my son to make the same mistake. Alara saved your life, multiple times. She's proven herself worthy. And if you want her as mate rather than just family, if she wants you, then you have my blessing." Acheron crossed to Alara, took her hands. "I thought what I felt was just trauma, just proximity, but it's not. Family or not, I still choose you. Still want to build something with you. Still love you," Alara finished. "I know. I feel the same. But we need time, need to figure out what this is when we're not in crisis. Then we'll take time." He squeezed her hands. "All the time we need." But time was something they wouldn't have. That night, as celebrations wound down, Alara left the healing tent to get fresh air. Acheron was sleeping peacefully, recovering well. She walked toward the edge of the gathering grounds, just to breathe, to process everything. She didn't see the shadows move, didn't see Riven emerge from the darkness. His exile didn't start until dawn. He still had hours. "Did you really think I'd leave quietly?" His voice was poison in the darkness. Before Alara could scream, his hand clamped over her mouth. Something pricked her neck. A needle. Sedative. The world tilted. Went gray. The last thing she heard was Riven's laugh. Let's see how your precious Asheron likes losing someone he loves. Alara woke in darkness. Her head throbbed. Her hands were bound. She was in some kind of cave or den. Abandoned. The smell of old earth and decay. Riven sat across from her, watching. You're awake. Good. I was beginning to worry I'd used too much. Alara's throat was dry. You're supposed to be exiled. I will be, at dawn, but I have hours yet, and I intend to use them. He stood, circled her. You cost me everything, my position, my pride, my future, because you couldn't mind your own business. You killed an innocent girl. I killed someone who betrayed me. His composure shattered. Just like you betrayed the natural order. Humans aren't supposed to have power over wolves, aren't supposed to heal us, aren't supposed to be mates to alphas. He grabbed her chin, forced her to look at him. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to break you, slowly. And when Asheron comes, and he will come, I'll break him too. I'll make him watch you die, and then I'll kill him. And Cassiel's justice, Theron's mercy, all of it will mean nothing. He released her, pulled out a knife. Let's start with those healer hands, shall we? Alara's mind raced. She was bound, drugged, no weapons, no way to fight. But she was a healer. She knew the body, knew pressure points, knew how to survive. You won't get away with this, she said. Buying time. They'll find you. Not before I'm done. He moved closer, raised the knife, and Alara did something she'd never done before. She reached inside herself, to the place where the healing magic lived. The ancient power Theron had sensed, the gift Morgana had passed down. But instead of healing, she pushed. Outward, a wave of pure energy exploded from her, not visible, but felt. It hit Riven like a physical blow, sent him staggering backward. The ropes around her wrists burned away, disintegrated. Alara stood, and something was different. Her eyes, she could feel them changing. The irises shifting from brown to violet gold, the color of ancient magic. Sovereign blood. Impossible, Riven breathed. You're human. I'm a healer, Alara said, and her voice resonated with power. And you've forgotten something important about healers. She took a step forward, energy crackling around her like lightning. We know exactly how to unmake what we've made whole. Riven lunged, but Alara was faster. The power guided her. She sidestepped, touched his shoulder, and the magic flowed. But not to heal, to harm. Riven screamed. His shoulder went numb, useless. The nerves shut down by the same power that could have repaired them. Stop. You wanted to break me? Alara's voice was cold. Let me show you what breaking really means. She touched his other arm, his leg, each touch shutting down nerve clusters, leaving him paralyzed, helpless. He collapsed, unable to move anything but his head. You're a monster, he gasped. No, I'm a healer who finally understands that sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is stop someone from causing more harm. A howl split the night, then another, then dozens. They'd found her. Asheron burst into the cave, shifted mid-run, his black wolf massive, furious. He saw Riven on the ground, paralyzed, saw Alara standing over him, eyes glowing violet gold, and he stopped. Alara? She turned to him, and the power was still visible, crackling around her like a storm barely contained. I'm okay, she said, and her voice was her own again, the power retreating, her eyes fading back to brown. He tried to, but She swayed, the energy draining away, leaving her exhausted. Asheron shifted, caught her before she fell. I've got you, he murmured. I've got you. Theron entered next, followed by Cassiel, Kira, a dozen others. They saw Riven, paralyzed. Saw the burn marks on the ropes where Alara's power had destroyed them. What happened here? Theron asked quietly. He kidnapped me, Alara said, voice shaking with exhaustion. Tried to kill me, but something in the magic it activated. I didn't know I could. You're sovereign, Cassiel breathed. True sovereign. We thought the bloodline was extinct. But you just. She looked at Riven, at the precise nerve damage. You shut him down without killing him. That level of control is impressive, Theron finished, and terrifying. But he didn't sound afraid. He sounded awed. He looked at Riven. You were given exile. You chose to break that mercy. The sentence is now death. Wait, Alara said. He's paralyzed, helpless. Killing him now isn't justice, it's execution. He tried to kill you, T, and I stopped him. Isn't that enough? Alara looked at the assembled pack. I don't want his death on my hands, or Asheron's, or anyone's. He's broken, powerless. Let him live with that. Cassiel stepped forward. He killed my daughter, and you fought him, beat him, showed him mercy by letting him live. Alara met Cassiel's eyes. Don't let him take that mercy away by making you a killer too. Cassiel stared at Riven, at the man who'd destroyed her daughter, who'd tried to destroy everything. Fine, she said finally, but the paralysis stays, and the exile is permanent. He lives as a crippled rogue, unable to shift, unable to fight. A warning to anyone else who thinks to break pack law. Theron nodded. So witnessed, remove him from pack lands. Leave him at the border. What happens to him after that is no longer our concern. Warriors dragged Riven away, still unable to move, still conscious, aware of everything he'd lost. 3 days later, the final gathering ceremony took place. All 4 packs assembled. But this time there was no challenge, no violence. This was something else, something unprecedented. Alara stood beside Asheron at the center, her heart hammering. Theron shifted to human form, addressed the assembled packs. 26 years ago, I made a choice. I chose pack law over personal happiness. I chose tradition over the woman I loved, and I've regretted it every day since. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The woman I loved was human, a healer named Leora. She was brilliant, powerful, carrying gifts that made her more valuable than any shifter healer I'd known. But the council said a human Luna would weaken us, he paused. They were wrong, and I was a coward for listening. The crowd had gone silent, shocked. Leora bore my son in secret, raised him in the human world before returning him to me. She sacrificed everything so that he could have the life he deserved. And then she left, changed her name, lived in hiding to protect him. Theron gestured to Asheron. My son stands here today, strong, brave, a worthy heir. And he owes that to his mother's sacrifice, to her human blood, to the gifts she passed to him. He turned to Alara. This woman is Leora's granddaughter. She carries the same bloodline, the same ancient healing magic. She saved my son's life, not once, but 3 times. She awakened powers we thought extinct. She's proven herself more valuable than any shifter I know. Today, Theron's voice rang out, I'm declaring new pack law. Humans with proven ability may join packs as full members. Human shifter bonds are recognized and honored, and anyone who questions this will answer to me personally. The crowd erupted, half in support, half in protest. But Theron's authority held. He raised his hand. Silence fell. Alara of Millbrook, I offer you a place in our pack, not as servant, not as auxiliary healer, but as full member, with all rights and protections that entails. Do you accept? Alara looked at Asheron, at Cassiel, at Senna, at hundreds of faces. This was her choice. I accept, she said, on one condition. Theron's eyebrows rose. Name it. I want healing quarters expanded, resources dedicated to training healers, human and shifter both, a school, a system, a way to make sure no one else has to prove their value through suffering. Theron smiled. Granted, you'll oversee it yourself, as head healer. The title hit like a physical blow. Head healer, full authority. Then I accept. Alara bowed. Thank you, Alpha. Don't thank me yet, Theron said quietly. You've made enemies today, people who believe humans weaken packs. They'll test you. Let them try. The ceremony concluded. But before packs dispersed, Theron raised his hand once more. One final thing. I'm stepping down as Alpha. Effective immediately. Silence. Shocked. Complete. I've led this pack for 30 years, made mistakes, learned lessons. But I'm tired. And I've finally learned something important. That leadership isn't about holding power until you die. It's about knowing when to pass it to someone better. He placed a hand on Asheron's shoulder. My son is ready. He's proven himself in battle, in judgment, in the courage to change things I was too afraid to touch. The crown was simple, ancient, woven from silver and moonstone. Theron placed it on Asheron's head. I present Asheron Grayson, Alpha of Silverpine Pack. The pack howled. Hundreds of voices rising to the moon, accepting their new leader. Theron turned to Alara, held out a second crown, smaller, more delicate, woven from the same silver but set with amethysts instead of moonstone. This hasn't been worn in 200 years, he said. It belonged to the sovereign queens, the healer line that ruled before alphas took power. Your bloodline, Alara, Morgana's bloodline, Leora's bloodline. He placed it on her head. I present Alara, sovereign queen, Luna of Silverpine, mate to the alpha and heir to ancient power. The weight of it settled on her head, on her shoulders, on her heart. She was no longer the village healer, the girl who'd been humiliated in a market square, the human who didn't belong. She was queen. The celebration lasted through the night, dancing, feasting, joy. 6 months later, Alara stood in the healing quarters, now expanded to twice its original size, and surveyed her kingdom. 10 beds instead of 5. Shelves stocked with supplies from 4-pack territories. And most importantly, 6 apprentices. 3 shifters, 3 humans, and all learning together. Senna approached, her stern face softened by pride. The council approved your proposal for satellite healing stations in each pack territory. They did? Theron pushed it through. She handed Alara a scroll. You're building a legacy, girl. Legacy. The word made Alara's stomach flutter. She pressed a hand against it unconsciously. Senna noticed. Her eyes narrowed. How far along? 3 months. Does he know? Not yet. I wanted to be sure first. Senna's stern expression cracked into a genuine smile. Congratulations. A child of 2 bloodlines. Human and shifter. Healer and heir. That's revolutionary. Alara found Acheron in the training yards. He'd recovered fully from his injuries. Was back to leading training sessions. He looked up when she approached. Smiled. I have something to tell you, Alara said. Good or bad? Both, possibly. She took his hand, placed it on her still, flat stomach. We're having a baby. Acheron went very still, his eyes wide. A baby. We're having a baby. Are you happy? Because if you're not ready, he kissed her, right there in the training yard with a dozen young wolves watching. I'm terrified, he said when they broke apart, and thrilled, and completely unprepared, and so happy. That evening, the pack gathered. My son and his mate are expecting a child, Theron announced. The first child born to acknowledge human shifter parents in pack history. Cheers erupted. Genuine celebration. The future had arrived. The moon rose higher, full, bright, painting the world in silver. Alara's hand went to her crown, to the weight of legacy and responsibility, an impossible promise. She'd saved a dying wolf in a forest, and in doing so, saved herself, saved a pack, saved a future she'd never dared imagine. The riddle she'd asked Acheron in that forest felt like a lifetime ago. What walks on 4 legs, 2 legs, 3 legs, and no legs at all? A promise she'd promised he wouldn't die. Promised to heal him, promised to keep trying even when it seemed impossible. And he'd promised her safety, partnership, a future where she didn't have to choose between who she was and who they needed her to be. Those promises had changed everything, had become love, had become family, had become revolution. The age of queens had returned. The age of healing had begun. And mercy, that dangerous, world-changing thing, had proven once again to be stronger than any chain.